My job, I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Gestoos. I lead the vision of the product, and it's an experiential product. It's a product that is about humanizing technology, and it requires a sense of living it, experiencing it in order to understand it. And that's my everyday job. I'm working with developers and designers to build and create things that people could potentially understand, enjoy, and explore. But the real job, I think it's more substantial. It's about changing the way technology interacts with people. And let me go deep into that. Society is changing. I believe that we are at the beginning of an entire new, I wouldn't call it revolution, but let's say an evolution of humanity in general terms. Internet did its job, allowed democratization of technology, allowed people to get information, for everybody to have access to information. Information is knowledge, and knowledge builds things as we see today. With the mobile phones, we saw the speed of development of a lot of different things. But now that things are becoming increasingly smarter and intelligent, we're going to face something completely different, which is spaces, objects, vehicles will be able to think. And that is extremely interesting. Because if you are building an artificial intelligence, like it's our case, I think you need to have a level of responsibility in order for that technology to land in people's hands. And what does that mean? What is that responsibility? Designers and developers building artificial intelligence need to provide the rules of the game, need to provide emotional intelligence to that AI, need to provide values, morals, and different elements that allow that technology to really exist and to really be and to coexist with humanity. And that is the real job, and that is the hardest challenge of all times, because you face every single day a moral question. Every time we bring a customer, we bring an investor, we bring a person to our studio, they ask us the exact same question. What about privacy? How is this thing going to change? What if this thing is hacked? What if it falls in the wrong hands? What happens to that? And it's our responsibility to provide very strong answers to that. The first thing for me is the concept of privacy by design, which essentially means if someone hacks an AI, they won't get anything out of it because it's designed in a way that there's nothing to hack. So we don't want to take people's identities, for instance, ever. Why? There's no need to do that. You get a lot with the human shape, and you can do a lot of things with the human shape. In fact, none of us are good at identifying everyone's faces. You know the people that you know because these people introduce themselves, or you know them because they're your family and your friends. But if you walk in the street, you see 1,000 faces, you don't know their names. Why are we leaving a technology with that responsibility of knowing every single person's, the people's names? No, we shouldn't. It's not human, right? That is not human. So the rule should be, you know what? Technology should not know the identity of people. But they should see that there's an elderly person and it has fallen down and it needs help. That's the key thing. That's where you want to say, then the technology is useful. And that's the job, really. That's the job. That's what we are doing. This is a very difficult question to answer, and it should be a very easy. It should be a very easy answer, but it's not. So, human interaction comes from the space of HMI, human-machine interface. It's a field. When we build products, these products typically are done in system software or mechanical engineering or product design, and they should be able to interface with a human. Yeah. Simplest example: when you see a door, there's a door handle. The door handle is the interface of the door to open the door. Yeah. So it tells me grab it, move it, and then I open it. Yeah. Simplest interface in the world. Now it's gotten more complicated. You have the web browser in your computer. That's the interface to internet. You've got your mobile phone, which is your interface to applications, data, and experiences in the phone. And it gets more complicated because when we enter the space of artificial intelligence, the interface is voice, the interface is vision, the interface can be haptic interfaces. And that starts to resemble a person, a human being. Artificial intelligence, it's a field of computer sciences which is trying to resemble an intelligence. It's artificially made, and it's using neural networks, it's using deep learning, it's using machine learning, and many terms around this space, techniques, methods, and so on, to build something that thinks. But because it's made by humans and it's based on data, it's biased per default. And what does it mean that it's biased? It means that if I take the data of the most important engineers in the past 10 years, the likelihood of getting white, male engineers, it's extremely high. And if I build a recruiting system, just to give you an example, what do you think that AI is going to look for? White, male engineers, full stop. So it's biased per default. So it's very difficult to build that layer of humanity into something that is biased per default. And so it needs to evolve, it needs to change. So what we're doing is trying to bring the human word into this whole equation and making things a bit more complicated to eventually get to simplicity. The thing is that the reality is that simple things are the hardest things to do. When everybody understands it, it means that a lot of folks, a lot of people have really thought through every single problem, and they've managed to answer it in a clever way so that everyone understands. But simplicity is not making stupid things or simple things. Simplicity is about fully understanding the entire consequences of something and being able to explain it so that everybody gets it. Yeah, there's a philosophical question whether we're in the third industrial revolution or the fourth revolution. I believe we're in the fourth. To me, the third was internet, and mobile devices took a path that allowed millions of people worldwide to reach information in areas where they would have never been able to do so. So Africa areas, parts of South America, parts of Asia, where for most people, internet was accessed for the first time through a mobile phone. That actually created the revolution, because then people had access to something, they had knowledge, and they could do things with that. And you see really interesting things going on in these geographies. So that's to me, but it's debatable. Some people said that blah, blah, blah. The fourth, some people talk about IoT, Internet of Things. Some other people say, no, it's artificial intelligence. I think it's always a device, actually. It's always something that allows us to make that social change. Yeah. In the typical industrial revolution, it was the ability of building, creating fabrics through mechanical engineering products. In the case of, and maybe some people say, well, the train was the object in the industrial revolution, what changed a lot of things. For internet, basically the browsers, and then the mobile web changed a lot of things. But now the thing is that if we are providing intelligence for spaces to see, to understand, to hear, and to behave like humans, that's inevitably going to kill jobs. Always happens. Every revolution kills things. When light was invented, the people turning on and off gas lamps, they had no jobs. But it creates new jobs. It creates new things. So if I tell you, if we had met 15 years ago, and I would tell you, tell me what's the job of the future, and I would tell you, people will be taking photos of themselves and charging for it, you would think I'm crazy. Because you couldn't imagine that Instagram would exist and that people would actually be able to build an audience and charge for that. I don't know what people will do when we have autonomous cars, when spaces are intelligent, when communication is ubiquitous, when consumer electronics are completely democratized, so you probably don't even buy them anymore, when the concept of property dies. Because if you evaluate, or if you look at the data from millennials, and I'm not a millennial, but I fit in some of the aspects of a millennial where I don't want to have a mortgage of a house because I am very concerned about global warming, and everybody talks about the year 2050. Apparently that's the moment where the polar caps will completely disappear and the water of the planet will rise, and then we'll have problems. Well, every single mortgage is a 30-year document that you sign with a bank. Why, living in Barcelona, why am I going to buy a flat when we have the beach a few meters from here? I don't even know how this city is going to look like. I'd rather, rent. And that's just a regular thing, right? I don't know. The majority of the coastal cities the whole world has coastal cities, are going to change, and global warming is not stopping, and we think this is going to happen anyways. Whether it happens at a drastic and dramatic scale or not, we don't know. That's a simple example, yeah? So yeah, that's going to happen. Now, what's happening is that the concept of property changes. Owning things is just going to disappear. It's going to vanish. Companies will own things, most probably, but we're going to be moving in a complete service-driven economy, and we're going to have exchange methods. And I think the revolution around Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the wrong example. Let's say that the cryptocurrencies in general is changing that already. The fact that I can provide a service and I can get points for that, not necessarily money, and those points can be transferring to food, water, electricity, it's very interesting. So I can define my job. So maybe I don't need to have a profession. So maybe I don't need to go to university. So maybe I don't need to have a title of any kind, right? And then you start questioning things like that. That's the revolution. That is the social revolution that changes everything. From JET8 technology, what I think, from what I know, I think it's a very interesting, definitely everything around cryptocurrencies, everything around an exchange between people, fascinating. It's extremely interesting. What I really like is the concept that you mentioned, that the value does not change over time. It has a specific value, not necessarily a specific price, but a specific value. It would be, I don't know which will be the winning currency and what will be the aspects for that currency to be the winning one. But I definitely think this one has interesting components. If you are able to get it to a point that the average person in the street is using it, I put my money on that. And it's real. If you go to a taxi driver and you tell them, can I pay you in Bitcoin? If this person is educated, they might say yes. But 90% of those guys will say, no, I have no idea, what's that? Or if I can go to the supermarket and even, or to a service provider and do that, it would be interesting. Now, I also believe that there's an aspect of the social value of all the currencies. And it's got to do with the principle, the fundamental aspects of currency in general, which is my service here might have a different value than my service in another geography. It does not need to be attached to currency. It might need to be attached to the kind of service that I provide. And then again, to me, and I don't know sufficiently enough to say how much of those values are determined by human aspects or by social aspects. And if that's the case for you guys, kudos.